I'm just going to read a statement just to go over some guidelines that will help us keep this going smoothly. We welcome the public to attend our meetings and sincerely appreciate your cooperation in being respectful and not disrupting or impeding the business that we will address today. Okay. There's not any microphone, so I'll try to speak louder. Better? Okay. You are allowed to record or photograph this meeting in accordance with the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. We are also live streaming the meeting on both Facebook and YouTube. And the speakers who have signed up for the call to the public or public hearing will be broadcast as well. We respectfully ask that everyone in attendance refrain from any conduct that creates or causes any type of disturbance. To ensure a respectful and orderly meeting, all attendees are asked to refrain from creating a disturbance, interference, or disruption of the meeting. Attendees may sit in the public seating area, as all of you are, to observe the meeting. We kindly ask that you be mindful that standing in front of other attendees may obstruct their view of the counselors and the materials that are on display. Also, walking around the room excessively in a way that draws attention to yourself can be disruptive to the meeting. In addition, continuing to argue with the council or staff after being instructed to stop disrupting the meeting will be considered further interference with the conduct of the meeting. Unwelcome physical contact will not be tolerated, including the invasion of attendees' personal space. This also includes side conversations at a volume loud enough to prevent others from hearing the business being conducted. If the mayor or city manager requests attendees to be silent or to take a side conversation outside, we appreciate your prompt compliance. Violations of any of these guidelines may result in removal from the meeting space or being trespassed from the meeting and city hall facility. We thank you for being here and for your continued engagement as a citizen of the city of Claremore. And I did notice some people have signs, which is great, but don't hold them up until maybe after the meeting, because then you're blocking the people behind you, just out of respect for the other people in the room. Now we're going to call the meeting to order. Call to order the Claremore Cultural Development Authority meeting. Sarah, please call the roll.
Connor. Bellman.
Here.
Michael.
Present.
Callender.
Here.
Long.
Yes.
Breckerhoff.
Here.
Boldy.
Here.
McSpadden.
Here.
Irwin. Here.
If you all will stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Pastor Mitchell.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, you sent your Son among us to proclaim the kingdom of God in cities, towns, villages, and even desert places. Look upon and be gracious to the city of Claremore. Please renew the bonds of charity that uphold our civic life. Grant our leaders to be honest and capable. Deliver us from prejudice and conflict so that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with mercy. And at last, bring us to your holy city, the New Jerusalem, where we shall know perfect unity and peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have anybody under call to the public? We have a motion to accept the agenda as printed.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Bellman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Breckerhoff.
Yes.
Boldy.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin. Yes.
Any items unforeseen?
None.
Current business, do we have a motion to approve the consent items as printed?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Bellman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Breckerhoff.
Yes.
Boldy.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin. Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned is second. Call the roll.
Spellman.
Yes.
Ruckerhoff.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Calendar.
Yes.
Long.
Yes. Call to order the Claremore Public Works Authority meeting. Note the roll. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Spellman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Calendar.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Ruckerhoff.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes. Was that accept the agenda or consent items? I'm trying to check them off.
The agenda.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's how I had it. Any items unforeseen?
No.
Okay. Current business, do we have a motion to accept the consent items as printed?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Spellman.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Calendar.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Ruckerhoff.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on an amendment wholesale power purchase. Mr. Ferry.
Thank you, trustees, members of the council, staff, and citizens. The item before you is an extension of our current wholesale purchase power and sale agreement with GRDA. As you know, a couple of years ago when we contracted to have our master plan electric done, we asked the citizens if we move forward with our 1 penny that we would make significant investment in that infrastructure. Part of that is the addition of a new substation as well as added capacity to our existing substations, 1 or 2 of them, plus a lot of reconductoring, new metering, and some other capital projects not associated with electric, such as some significant sanitary sewer issues that we had in the original parts of town. So as we started working with bond counsel to identify projects and costs and engineer these things, which will probably take us the better part of another year, we started thinking about revenue notes. Well, as you know, we have gone out and taken revenue notes in the past and pledged against future revenue on both sales tax and utilities. So we anticipate a very large capital project package that we would present to address a lot of the old and aging infrastructure and shortcomings. You'll recall last year we presented the wastewater master plan on some of the lift stations that we'd like to eliminate because of the annual O&M cost on those, and we can put gravity lines in, they're cheaper to maintain, plus all the electricity. We think that this capital project overall, to honor the commitment to the taxpayers, is probably going to be well in excess of $40 to $50 million. And in order to make that big splash, we need to make sure that we can pledge future revenues. Well, it's like when you go to a bank. If you go to a bank and borrow money, they want to make sure that you have leverage to borrow against it. You cannot go out and start putting together a package for revenue bond of a 20, 25, or 30-year revenue note if you've only got 15 years left, the ability to buy power and sell it. So this is what this is. This is an extension. We've started talking with other customer groups that also have to increase their number of substations with the growth. And these are customer-owned substations, not to be confused with anything associated potentially with the data center. This is our distribution system in town. As you know, we've identified a place up on the hill by the water tower over just north of Atwoods for a 6th substation, as well as significant increase to demand or capacity on 2 other substations. So that being said, in order for us to start putting a revenue package together, and as interest rates are starting to drop, we want to turn around and be in a position that we can adequately go out and fund those capital projects. I think this will curtail or entail not only electric and sanitary sewer, we know, but some significant transportation needs in some areas that we need to address, and continue to work on water. I'm very happy with the progress we've made on water. We've had two straight years in a row finally without a notice of violation because of the significant infrastructure upgrades we made in both the water distribution system and at the water plant. So we think sanitary, sewer, transportation, electric, a very substantial and robust package. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have the ability to buy electricity and sell electricity to pledge against those revenues.
These are projects that we started identifying 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah, probably even long before I was here. So if you'll recall, the CEC study told us that by 2030, just on our distribution system alone, on electric. We needed to add significant capacity, at least another 28 megawatt substation, and then maybe add 10 megawatts to 2 of our existing 28 megawatt substations.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve and second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes. Motion adjourned. Second.
Motion adjourned second. Call the roll.
Michael?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Call to order the Claremore City Council meeting. Note the roll. We have a motion to accept the agenda as printed.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Spelman?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Callender? Long?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Any items unforeseen? Mayor's report, none tonight. Board's presentations and communications, Mr. Manager.
None at this time.
Staff report, Mr. Manager.
Just 2 things. Had the privilege to sit with Senator Langford's staff for the majority of the afternoon. He sits on a select subcommittee for DHS on Homeland Security, and this Friday there is an anticipated FEMA reform report that's going to be given to the select subcommittee and then the whole committee. And so we had a great opportunity to sit down with people that staffed that committee for him to talk about the woes and challenges that we had through the recovery process. They also visit with our friends from Barnstall, Sulphur, Shawnee, and a few other places today. So there may be something in the long-term future that benefits Oklahomans as a whole and the United States as a whole. I hope so, because as you know, our process has been onerous, and and unfortunately the bureaucracy is more interested in not trying to find ways to help you, but trying to find ways to say no, even when you do everything the right way. So just publicly say thank him and appreciate him. He's been an ally for us on this from the beginning. So if you get an opportunity, or as we see his staff around, please tell him thank you. The second thing, I would just remind the council and staff and citizens, those that don't know, please continue to pray for Councilor Cottom. She knows she's dealing with a horrific disease that is life-altering, and she is in the hospital. So I would just ask continued prayers for Melissa and her family. And that's all I have.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the consent items as printed.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Spelman?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Long?
Yes. Item number 2, public hearing for the purpose of providing information, including an analysis of potential positive or negative impacts, and answering questions regarding the proposed Mustang Data Center Economic Development Project Plan. Who's taking it from there?
So, Mayor, this is Jeff Sabin and council. Some of you have met him. Jeff is with the Center for Economic Development Law, and he will present the project plan that is required by law that's been on the website since probably March 31st, April 1st. I will warn everybody, Jeff is very soft-spoken. Please, I'm sure he'll do the best he can to speak up. So Jeff will present the project plan to council, to the public.
Presentation.
And I would tell the council, this is the same plan that was presented to the Tax Incentive District Review Committee on March 31st.
Good evening. Again, my name is Jeff Staven. I'm the city's Economic Development Counsel for this project. And I'm going to go over some of the basics that are in the Mustang Data Center Economic Development Project Plan. This is a project plan under Oklahoma's Local Development Act, which is the state's tax increment financing and tax incentive district enabling statute, which is in Title 62 of the Oklahoma statutes. And the city has some experience with TIFs, helping revitalize downtown, some other projects. TIDS kind of works similarly, except instead of apportioning the new taxes that are generated on new investment and apportioning them into a fund to pay authorized project costs, it authorizes a partial exemption on that new investment or that increased valuation. So what is this project? It's a multi-phased data center project with that specific North American Industrial Classification System industry number. And that's important because typically under the statute, tax incentive districts are limited to 5 years in duration. But as a result of the state removing data center projects from eligibility under the state's 5-year manufacturing exemption about 6 or 7 years ago, the compromise on that was to allow a longer period of time for these projects, provided they get local support for them. So the project itself is going to be up to 3 phases, at least 1 phase, but up to 3 phases, with at least 1 data center per phase. And each phase, the estimated investment is going to be $1 billion or more. Each phase would have its own separate incentive district that would be triggered upon completion of the construction of the project and issuance of a certificate of occupancy. This is the general location. So it's in the Claremore Industrial Park on the north side of town. You can kind of see the 3 different areas. They're currently listed as A, B, and C. They'll be given a numerical designation as each one comes online. So the preliminary project layout, and this might change, but this is what was provided about a month ago, kind of shows the location of the 3 buildings, primary buildings within each phase on that site. And it does kind of split most of TIF A. It splits local school district boundaries. The project itself, so the project plan is the guiding document for incentive districts, and it's required by statute to have a number of things, including the district boundaries, any project cost, if there are going to be any, what the actual exemption would be, designation of a person specifically to be in charge of implementation and administration of the project plan, things of that nature. And the requested exemption here, and what's listed in the project plan, is a 100% exemption of the ad valorem tax and ad valorem special assessments within each increment district for a period of 25 years per incentive district. That would be against any new investment on those sites. And as I mentioned, the Local Development Act provides for up to 25 fiscal years for this particular industry classification number as part of that compromise. So they are proposed for a full 25-year period. There has been a highest and best use analysis conducted by the city on this project, and they think that this project and the additional infrastructure that it will bring will help make the other development sites within the industrial park more attractive. But more importantly, this particular incentive is needed for the project to remain competitive with other surrounding states that do offer more statewide exemption programs or means of structuring a project that allow them to not pay as high property taxes, specifically on the business personal property that comes involved with all the project servers and things of that nature, which is going to be a bulk of the actual investment amount. The objectives of the project, we want to make sure the development happens, and we want to make sure it happens here as opposed to neighboring states. We want to make sure that taxing entities have significant revenues generated through a negotiated pilot payment structure, which we'll go over in a minute. But also some revenues for the city, even though the city may not be a participant in the ad valorem taxes. We want to make sure the city has a financial benefit as well. But ultimately, to help achieve local and regional economic development goals and to spur ancillary development that will have higher job creation potential. So as I noted, the project plan provides for a 100% exemption of ad valorem taxes and special assessments for 25 years for each phase. And there's a deferred effective date for each phase. So that 25-year period won't begin until each project wraps up construction and gets issued its CO. One of the things about TIDs as opposed to TIFs is that you can't include an entity's exemption or an entity's levy within an exemption without their express written approval. So all of these listed entities are the ad valorem taxing entities that will share in pilot payments. So it's Rogers County, Ooltewah Talala Public Schools, the County Health Department and Fair Board, Sequoia Public Schools, Northeast Tech, Ooltewah Talala EMS, and the city. Though the city will not participate in the pilot payments, there'll be a separate community betterment payment, which we'll go over in a minute. So each of those governing bodies is required to approve the actual inclusion of their levy in the provided incentive for us to be able to use their incentive. So they'll have to approve a separate incentive agreement that the council will consider following the second public hearing on May 18th. The project is anticipated to deliver some significant public benefits. As I mentioned, it's $1 billion plus per phase. However, unlike a lot of other industrial projects that include a lot of jobs, there's some positives and negatives involved in that. The positive is there's about 50 new permanent positions upon completion. We anticipate it having a highly above average median wage. And there will be significant direct and indirect economic activity, particularly during the construction and the refresh cycles. We anticipate the project infrastructure, servers and things like that, having a refresh cycle between about 5 and 8 years. So every 5 or 8 years, they'll have to go in and basically rebuild their system to keep current with technology increases. The pilot payment that's been negotiated with all the taxing jurisdictions wound up being $4.75 per square foot. And that, obviously, as the data centers grow or new data centers are built, those pilot payments would go up. The allocation of those pilot payments would be given to the taxing jurisdictions in their proportionate share of the total millage rate effective for the 2025 tax year. And after the initial payment for each phase begins, it'll increase 1% annually. There's also a negotiated payment for the city to help with its economic development efforts of $250,000 annually. The Planning Commission, when they went over this project, all found it to be in line with the city's comprehensive land use planning, and it already has appropriate zoning for this kind of use. The financial impacts and economic impacts from the project, again, will be significant. 50 plus permanent employees. This salary range is our own assumptions. It's not provided by the proposed development company. We don't know what the actual salary is, but we're looking at probably $3+ million in payroll, and that's just from the permanent employees. That doesn't include the construction trades and stuff like that that would be involved in actually building and doing the refresh cycles. So, but those employment opportunities for a $1 billion investment is highly specialized. I believe the company involved is already working out a training program with Northeast Tech to help provide local workforce for it. But during those construction cycles and refresh cycles, and the modest amount from the total permanent employees, should have some significant indirect and induced economic activity. On the right-hand side of the column there, you can see an estimate of pilot payments based on basically a low estimate of what a data center might be if it's a 200,000 square foot facility, which is on the low end. At $4.75 square foot, that winds up being $950,000 per year, again escalated at 1%. If it's on the higher end, so if it's around 1.1 million square feet in total, you're looking at upwards of $5.2 million per year. Community benefit payments will just be that flat $250,000 a year. So the sales and use tax that the city will receive during that construction period, the incentive agreement provides for point of delivery for construction materials to be within city limits. That will be significant. But then the ad valorem sales and use tax from that induced and indirect activities through that will have a multiplying factor, an exponential multiplying factor for its impacts. The approval process for a TID is very similar to what it is for a TIF. Over a year ago, it seems like now, the council approved a resolution that declared its intent that they would be considering a project plan for this project. The same resolution convened the review committee The statutory review committee included representatives from all of the affected taxing jurisdictions and 3 members of the public at large. They met and went over the draft of the project plan. They determined that the project is eligible under the Local Development Act, that the financial impacts would be positive on their jurisdictions, and they recommended approval by the City Council. The Planning Commission also considered the project plan a couple weeks ago on April 21st. They also recommended approval and found that the project plan was in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan documents. The next steps in the formal adoption process are the public hearings. Tonight's the first one. The goal of this public hearing under the statute is to provide this presentation and to provide an opportunity for members of the public and council to ask questions about the project plan. The second public hearing on May 18th will be designed more to give the public an opportunity to voice their opinions for or against before the council can take any action on an ordinance that would approve the project plan. We do anticipate having the ordinance that would approve the project plan up for council consideration at the same meeting following the conclusion of the second public hearing, as well as consideration of the separate tax incentive agreement for the project. The taxing jurisdictions over the past month have been working, meeting and approving or considering the incentive agreement. John, I may ask have they all approved it at this point, or are we still waiting on one?
All but one.
All but one? Well, we would anticipate that being in place by the 18th. The statute provides a window of 60 days after the approval of a project plan in case it's needed. And we will be building into the ordinance that approves the project plan basically a condition that the approval won't go into effect until all the taxing jurisdictions have signed off on it. And then each TID would be made effective at a later date, closer to each phase's completion. There is a statutory window. It has to be within 10 years of the approval of the project plan. So the project's developer would have a 10-year window to either build out the construction of the project, or risk losing some of that 25-year window on the back end. That's the end of my presentation. If you all have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you listed all the tax, receiving tax entities for the pilot payments. Do you have any idea or what the allocation is to, or is it equal?
It's based on their proportion share to
The millage rate?
the millage rate. So
To the layperson, do you have any idea of what that actual?
often, this is not accurate.
Right, not as accurate, but we have a lot of people
All
who
are
don't know
about
what the millage rate
60%
is.
of the local school districts, and that'll vary from building to law depending on where the building's located.
What was that percent?
About 60%.
Okay.
About 20% to the county, about 30% or so to the,
So you've got,
There's some allocations in the table, so Claremore, OTEMS, the Health Department and the Health Board, I apologize, Northeast Tech, Louisville, Public Schools, Board of County Commissioners, and Sequoia Public Schools. Planning Commission doesn't receive dollars, they're funded.
So, in the incentive agreement, we've got 2018, two tables based on which school district project would be, and generally about 70 to 75% to the local school district, about 10 to 12% to Northeast Tech, 10% to the county, 0.25% to the Fair Board, and about 1.5% to the Health Department.
And I would say that I know there's multiple iterations of the test fit, part of the due diligence side. If the project were to be approved by the council, there would be once that final determination is made, what their ultimate test fit to the site might look like.
to be able to present more of an accurate dollar-specific amount anticipated to go towards each of the taxing entities once they do the final square footage of that was inside each TID.
And I mean, the project plan doesn't approve the project's development documents, so they'll still have to plat, go through the full building review process. If there are any zoning revisions that are needed, we don't know of any zoning code revisions, but if they need any kind of, if they submit a PUD or anything like that, that'll go before just the regular.
The estimated square footage of the first phase, do you know what that, remind me what that was?
We were given a range between 200,000 and 1.1 million.
So it would drastically change where it's at, then I'm guessing.
And I think for everybody's fairness, once we've completed the public hearing and there's a list of questions that we're gonna make note of and answer, I think we do have representatives of the project developer here with the latest information, and they can kind of give you a better, what each phase might look like as far as under roof.
So but when we pass, if we pass the TID, it's for all the phases. We can't do it phase by phase.
That is correct. The ordinance, if the council considered and authorized or approved an ordinance, is for the project plan, which is inclusive of the 3 areas.
They just wouldn't implement them until they're done, the next phase or
And then
something,
there's
right?
some restrictions. Once it's implemented, then they've got 10 years, and then the clock starts ticking off.
So it could be like 35 years since they could wait to finish the first district in 10 years. The clock doesn't start.
Right, their incentive, yeah, that's correct. It could be up to 10 years before the 25-year period begins.
So 30.
But if the land increases in value in that 10 years, that valuation won't be part of their incentive as well. So that's the trade-off. And I believe the project right now still has an ag exemption, or at least a portion of it does.
You know what the current ad valorem on that property is?
I want to say it generated about $900 or $1,000 in taxes last year.
So 1,000 divided by all those 8 districts. 7
Well, the
districts.
majority goes to your K through 12.
Okay.
And then-
60 to 70%.
And so we're talking 1,000 versus 950 on the low end to 5.2 million over the next 25 years.
And an increasing 1%.
And I would have to go back, and it's been months since I looked at it, but it's
Insignificant.
because it's zoned industrial, ad valorem is still based on use, and because there's nothing happening out there, you can make the claim, the owner makes the claim that it's not generating any revenue or income, therefore why should I pay the same as a AXH or prior MST, somebody who's.
Which entity of the ones listed have not voted to
I believe it's the health board. They had a quorum issue. The other 7 have all held their public meetings and had unanimous support and votes in support.
Yeah,
So when this does come to the council, it will have gone through 8 other entities full of elected and appointed officials.
The taxing jurisdictions have significant leverage on the pilot payment negotiations because you literally can't use their levy without their consent. So I know the development team had met with each of them individually to negotiate something that would work for all of them. And it did have all their support before the review committee even recommended approval.
And the city was not part of those individual, those are things that happen between the development team and those individual taxing entities and their representative bodies.
So in the last meeting, public meeting we had at RSU, it was said it would only be for data storage. With these refresh cycles, can that change? Can that?
That's a question. I mean, I think over time, I don't know what technology would, the intent of this is streaming and data storage, cloud storage.
Internet and
cloud
storage, cloud, right?
So the developer's here tonight?
Yeah, oh, yes,
Okay.
representatives from the
Okay.
developer are here. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Any other questions from me at this point?
I think I'm just a little confused if it can only increase like 1% annually, even though the property may increase in value. How does that, do you get what I'm saying? So if it doesn't really have value now, even if once they start building, if they don't complete within the 10 years, if it only increases by 1% and they don't pay it, how does that work?
But if the
I
property.
guess it doesn't even say it yet,
The
right?
pay-
Yeah,
Okay.
The payment has a 1% escalator.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
once
pilot
they start
payment
payment,
has a 1%
okay,
escalator.
okay, that helps me understand.
I have one question. So if the TID were approved and you have this agreement with the receiving entities, and let's just out of the blue say 5 years from now, the whole thing goes belly up, then who's responsible to pay those entities per that TID agreement?
If that happens, they're in violation of the incentive agreement. It also imposes development obligations on them. If the project isn't in operation, the city's remedy would be to terminate the TIDs. And so any property value that would be in that site would go back on the regular tax rolls at that point.
Okay. And then that would be to whoever owns the property, which would not be the city.
Correct.
Okay, it would be whoever the client is. Okay.
On that increase.
Substantially, yeah.
And for clarification, the city doesn't own, the Claremore Industrial Authority owns the southern part. The majority of the property on the project plan is owned by a private individual. So he has made the decision to execute and engage and utilize his property in something that his family wanted it to be zoned and used for a couple decades ago.
This is city-owned property.
Correct.
So will we hear from the developer now, or
We'll
can
we'll
we do
the-
that first before, or no?
Well, I think it would be best if we got questions from the audience so they could address
Yeah.
yours and their questions during the public hearing would be my.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make my announcement, Mayor, if that's.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just sitting here like I don't know what I'm doing. Sorry, go ahead. Our city attorney is going to go over a few things on this, so go ahead.
Members of the public, thank you for being here tonight to discuss this issue. Per the statute set forth in the Local Development Act, we're going to open this up for a public hearing. As you know, when you came in, there was an opportunity to sign up to speak and have your questions presented to the council, to the developer, whoever is appropriate to answer those questions. The same limitations apply to public comment in any other meeting, which means that each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The appropriate person to answer any questions that may be asked will be taking notes so that they can answer that question at the end of all questions having been asked, if that makes sense. That's to prevent trying to answer these questions on the fly as they come up, give everyone time to think through the answers. With that, reiterating what the mayor said at the start of the meeting, we ask that everyone be cordial and respectful so that this can be a productive conversation and hearing.
Thank you. You want to call the first person?
You need to open the public hearing. Yeah, say I'm opening it.
Oh,
Open it.
sorry.
Second.
Motion to open the public hearing in a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Feldman.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Callender.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Breckerhoff.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Mixback.
Yes.
Okay, we're ready. You have the timer.
Anne Marie Beer.
Ma'am, before you get started and your time starts, I forgot one thing. We have a timer that's running, so when your 3 minutes is up, you'll hear an audible beep.
So we have no microphone?
I know, is that?
I-
You'll need to speak up.
I don't think they work.
It picks up.
They have one for that is video.
For the Facebook.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak on this subject. It's extremely important to all of us. I have text messages from the city manager, John Fury, from February 2026, admitting that he's well aware there's not enough power on the grid to make Project Mustang a viable operation. He's speaking with Bill Infrastructure, and there's a reference to the power availability on day 1 and day 2, as he calls it. In the text, Fury acknowledges there's only 100 megawatts of power available on the grid, and for reference, Project Mustang is in the ballpark of 400 to 500 megawatts. So who's funding the additional supply of power? Bet you it's going to be from the rate hike. Don't believe me, why is PSO asking the Corporation Commission for $3 billion to be passed on to the ratepayers to cover their power expansion for the things like Inola aluminum smelter? I realize that GRDA is a different entity here, but there's a pattern, and we the people have caught on to this idea of corporate welfare and this racketeering project led by Field Infrastructure with the help of people like John Fury and his wife, Chelsea Fury, who helped broker the atrocious deal for Project Clydesdale in Owasso. These text messages show that Fury knows a supplemental source of power is necessary. The primary source is likely the gas plant that Beal denies set for installation just south of the data center. Other sources might include at least a dozen solar and wind power plants, which, per the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP, are in the queue for installation and will negatively impact our friends to the north in the county and neighboring counties. These projects, along with the battery energy storage systems and the unwanted transmission line, hinge upon these things like Project Mustang. We need to understand that the decisions we make here at this city affect our friends and neighbors. We need to see that this is more than just a data center. It's the externalities that come with it. The solar panels, the wind turbines, and the batteries are not popular, and most are not coming to the grid. Just look at Porter, Oklahoma, where the nearly 5,000-acre solar power plant was denied by their county commissioners. You're making a decision based on projections that are on shaky ground, and you have no idea who's going to pay for it or if it's even a viable option. I have a mapping from the SPP with those projects and the text messages from John Fury showing he's likely to flee town before the city gets screwed over by getting cut off from the utility franchise fees when the gas plant goes into operation. So I'd like to submit this to the city clerk, and those are my questions. Thank you. Here's the map, and these are two separate messages.
Amber Robinson Rodriguez.
Do you want to just let whoever's next go to be efficient so we get ready? No, just trying to consider it. I'm gonna keep my sunglasses on too. Shine some light here. So there's a lot of discussion and chatter about whether this project is actually being done in accordance with the law, and what I'm going to talk about shows that it's beyond chatter, it's a matter of fact, and this project has violated the law. So back in October, Miss Maggie Knight, she was somewhere, there she is, she arranged some meetings with the county commissioners, Beal Infrastructure, and she specifically says that a meeting with Commissioners Hendricks and Dan DeLogers would constitute a quorum, and then request to avoid quorum, we'll do private individual meetings. Now, she's happy to accommodate the desires of Beal Infrastructure by keeping this information out of the public's purview, and I've got those emails right here. Also in black and white, I've got the Attorney General's opinion on this, on serial quorum. And I want you to take a look at the emails in comparison to that, and you tell me about intent. You tell me about the very intentional maneuvering by government officials who are clearly intending to circumnavigate our Open Meetings Act. And this is literally a law put in place to support transparency, something that some of you are running for candidacy on. But Ms. Froman Knight, she's a public trust authority. That doesn't give her the right to violate that statute. She's been making this game plan with Fury the entire time, well over 2 years ago. And there is no telling what they're going to do if somebody finds out what the city of Claremore has actually been up to. It's notable that anything done since the violation of this statute has been done in violation of the law. Okay, that means that tonight's meeting, this hearing right now, shouldn't even be happening because you guys are all in violation. I don't make the laws. This is straight from the Attorney General's website and from the records that you guys gave us, that you didn't even know you gave us, by the way. And I tried to tell your law firm, hey, give me a call. I told all of you, give me a call. Here's my cell phone number. I'll show you all the records that we've gotten. Mr. Fury, you can't order an issue to the entire city council outside of the public meeting, meaning you can't order them to not talk to me. But I got the opinions on that from the Attorney General. They're not mine, so there you go. I'm curious to know how any of this is legal in consideration that all of this is you guys already have met a consensus. You've been going person to person to make that consensus, privately, individually. It was done with the taxing entity heads. This is that evidence. You want to look at it? I'll give it straight to you first. And if you guys want to have another meeting, let's take this Mustang to the fairgrounds where you can actually have people that don't have to sit outside.
You'll have to give it to Sarah and then she'll get copies to us.
Oh, I forgot the opinion from the Attorney General, separate from the resource on the other changes, but
Sarah Growing.
I'm sorry, it's Gray.
Gray?
Gray, yes, ma'am.
Gray, I'm sorry.
I think it's be better if you give the information to Sarah, because that way she can get all the information to us.
Okay, I was just.
I know, that'll get
Let's keep it
confusing.
all in the same location.
We'll get it all, and that way it'll all be together. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your last name?
Gray.
Oh, Gray. Oh, she said going.
My handwriting is.
Sorry.
Let me just go.
Are you ready,
Okay,
Sarah?
sorry. Chair, Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Sarah Gray, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of a local workforce coalition representing building and construction trades workers across northeastern Oklahoma, including electricians, plumbers and pipe fitters, elevators, iron workers, laborers, operating engineers, sheet metal workers, and other trade workers. Collectively, we represent more than 400 blue-collar workers and retirees right here in Rogers County. These are skilled tradespeople who already have deep roots here. They shop and pay taxes here, they have kids in the schools, and they care for aging family members. And we hope they're all at home having dinner with their families right now after an honest day's work. We understand that data center projects are currently raising real questions in communities across Oklahoma. We can only speak to what we know from direct experience. For nearly 20 years, our trades have worked side by side on data center projects in Oklahoma, including both short and long-term construction work and long-term maintenance and operational support. For example, over the last 10 years alone, Oklahoma tradesmen have filled thousands of job assignments on the Google site and prior. Those were not thousands of different people coming in and out with no connection to the community. Many of those assignments were the same Green Country workers returning over multiple phases of construction, maintenance, upgrades, and expansions. When local governments and developers prioritize the hiring of and investment in the local workforce, you don't drive by a job site and see nothing but Texas license plates. Phase development creates stability for our families and training opportunities for apprentices, and it allows projects to become part of the local economy instead of just passing through. When local workers have steady work close to home, that money circulates back through our schools, businesses, churches, and communities. Our priorities are straightforward. We want to see local workers and contractors prioritized for construction and long-term maintenance, strong safety standards on the job site, and fair wages and benefits. Workforce development is so much more than a talking point. It is literally how we hand Oklahomans the tools they need to provide for their families and themselves. We're not asking this council to ignore other concerns. We're just asking that local workers, future apprentices, and family-sustaining jobs be part of the public interest that this council considers. Thank you for your time, and thank you for considering the skilled trades workforce and our families as part of this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie Casina.
I'm going to say one more time, as I said before, if you approve this data center, you will be destroying the lives of myself and the other people that live in the neighborhoods that border your data center. We are not citizens of Claremore, so we don't have a say. You don't really care, but I'm going to say it again anyway. Bill Infrastructure website for Project Mustang says that the project does not include on-site power generation of any kind, such as gas turbines, wind, or solar generation. Nuclear power was conveniently left out of that statement, as were battery energy storage systems, which the latter are planned for installation near or on-site at Project Clydesdale in Tulsa County. One is through AEP, the other GRDA, and that infrastructure will likely be paid for by ratepayers. At our last town hall meeting in February, Lauren Harvey of Beale said there would be no electric generation from natural gas tied to Project Mustang. Based on review of records, that's a lie. Review of the internal documents show that Oklahoma Natural Gas has been in the carbon copy of many of the communications involving the city, Beale, GRDA, and others. With Senate Bill 840, the behind-the-meter legislation, Project Mustang could add on-site electric generation in the form of a natural gas combustion turbine power plant. Once on-site energy generation goes online, the city will see its share from franchise fees greatly diminished, if not completely voided. At that point, what's the city's revenue stream? These are valid questions for the developer and the city. Are you willing to go on record that you do not have on file a confidential agreement with one gas, which is Oklahoma Natural Gas? If that agreement exists, then why should we have any faith in these claims? Also, can you explain why a company called Solar Turbines, which is a subsidiary of Caterpillar specializing in gas combustion turbines for the use in AI data centers, has very recently purchased land and cleared easements immediately south of Project Mustang? That would be the Lufkin building complex. Does the city not know about this? If they do, why would they agree to it? I have the deed of the property that the turbine company purchased and the easement released from GRDA for the record.
Roy Lyons.
Yeah, Lyons. Thank you. I just wanted to come here and speak on a different perspective. Everybody's talking about the politics of issues. I want to stress the importance of what it means for the working people in our community. With that being said, I've been an electrician for over 30 years, and 30% of my time as an electrician has been at data centers in our area. From Tulsa County to Mays County to Muskogee County, all over the place. The technology that that's driving the future is here now. Everybody gets on their phone, they get on the computer, they do their praising or complaining, whichever side of the coin you want to be on, you're using that technology. How it's benefited my family and myself has been good wages, insurance. You talk about retirement, I'm getting close. Yes, I'm got some gray hairs and I'm kind of thinking about that. But the thing that it has done for me and my family is put food on our table. It's allowed me to have a career, and to say that I've been in data centers for 10 years plus of a variety of them is a pretty powerful thing for me. And as an instructor, I'm with the union, IBEW 584. I'm an instructor for one of the apprenticeship classes there. To see the future of the trade coming up now, this is a great opportunity for them to get a skill set, to be trained, and to prepare themselves and their families to enjoy the things that I've been able to enjoy this whole time by being able to work in my home area. There's something to be said about going to work, coming home, sleeping in your own bed. In construction, sometimes that's not always going to happen. Sometimes you got to travel. But with the technology of the way things are now, we have data centers. Back in the 90s, you could run from a laptop clear across the country. It takes the infrastructure. It takes I'm an electrician, but you also have the communications. You have all the various crafts that are involved with building this type of a system. You're putting a lot of people to work when that opportunity reaches the people. And people say, well, they're only going to employ 50 people in the long run. The subcontractors, again, I've been there, I've seen it, I've experienced it. The subcontracting that takes place is also not even spoken about, that I've heard. When it comes to the subcontract work, we get out there and we do it. We have a specialized skill set to do so. And we have people that are trained to meet those needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Teresa Lewis.
How do you spell the last one?
LUC.
Thank you.
name's Teresa Luce, and the data center will be below us. So the sound and all that stuff, and the pollutants will all, when the wind blows a certain way, come towards our neighborhood. Since February, when we were gathered together and shared concerns about the large-scale data center, the city has failed to acknowledge or do anything about the city's data breach and sharing of private personal information. The city has breached our information and actually shared some of our information with Beal Infrastructure. As for the Bank First account, the city has received money for all this work done under the Shell LLC Quartz Mountain Properties. The city has completed multiple work orders, and guess what? These transactions were overseen by legal. So when so they must be okay with this type of activity. My question is, for what it's worth, was not answered the last time, but what are you currently doing to resolve the data breach? And I have all the emails that you guys want to read to confirm all my information. And this is just a snippet of the emails.
Blaine Brown.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Lane Brown. I live 7 minutes from the proposed site. We live on a 17-acre plot. No one's going to want to buy it if you guys put this in here. But my question is I wonder if the City Council is aware that they violated the law for the betterment of Project Mustang. Now, I understand that's a serious allegation, but I think we have something courtesy the text messages of John Fury that may be worthy of investigation, and I have all the text messages right here. It should certainly give you pause, given all you are potentially implicated with what I'm about to say. Back in February, just before the Q&A, that didn't really answer any of our questions. It was kind of just a public show. We arrested somebody, but John Fury organized 2 meet and greets between Beal Infrastructure and the City Council that were separated by less than hours. He did that to avoid quorum and to avoid having to post an agenda for the meeting. After all, it was called a meet and greet, so it was most certainly a meeting, a sub-quorum meeting. Our transparency laws frown upon such behavior by our government. Now, Deputy Mayor McSpadden, you were the one that responded to my email about Darren Blanchard's arrest. You said that he did not comply with law enforcement. We are a nation of laws. A government that ignores that isn't governing. Now we can have the debate about Mr. Blanchard's arrest later, but it sounds like to me the city of Claremore is a government that is actively ignoring laws. Therefore, it is failing at its job of governing. Maybe you're not ignoring the law. Maybe you're choosing to violate and circumvent the law. There's a big difference. If you're ignoring or aren't aware of the proper procedure to law, then you are just a bad government. When you have clear intent, which it appears we do here, we start to diverge on the path of criminality. There's clear intent here with these actions, and it's all rooted in the workings of Mr. John Fury. Let me be clear. Oklahoma law and legal interpretations prohibit using smaller informal gatherings to deliberately bypass the requirement for public noticed meetings. How many sub-quorum meetings has this council had in relations to Project Mustang? I go back to you, Deputy Mayor McSpadden. Are you simply ignoring the law, or are you and this board at the direction of John Fury intentionally breaking the law? Last time I checked, he works at your pleasure. It's not the other way around. And a follow-up question, did you, along with Mayor Debbie Long, sign confidentiality agreements with Beal Infrastructure, just like the mayor and vice mayor did in Coweta? It's the same developer, so why would things be different here in Claremore? Thank you. And I have these text messages right for the record.
Darren Blanchard.
starting my time. Darren Blanchard, Creek County. It's funny, last time we met at Rogers State University to offer information to the public, but tonight we're at City Hall. Wonder if the larger venues in town like RSU declined hosting tonight's event, citing they only welcome groups that allow for the open exchange of ideas and viewpoints. Maybe, maybe not, but it begs the question, why is the city limiting the head count and capping overall speaking time tonight? I last spoke on the city's non-compliance of the Open Records Act, and as I handed my documents to the clerk, I was arrested and put in jail. Guess I touched a nerve, given my viewpoint was apparently not appreciated by John Fury. With that said, I'm back tonight talking about non-compliance and its habitual pattern with this government. Keep in mind you pay outside counsel for your record request, and it appears to me they've breached the contract. The due diligence hasn't been done. They leaked the community's personal, private information in addition to the city's checking account number. I can read it off if you'd like. This is going on YouTube, right? People can drain that account real quick by making ACH transfers. Just saying. But seriously, I asked for a record from the Economic Development Authority in early February, a memo sent to Maggie Froman Knight in November regarding the Open Records Act. I was told in writing the record doesn't exist or it's confidential. It's one or the other, or does not apply. I know the record exists because I have an invoice sent to the city noting the very memo. The confidential gibberish is not a valid exemption. And that's just not my opinion. That's also the opinion of the Attorney General. How do I know? Because I have it in writing from the AG's office, right here in my folder. I independently obtained this letter saying the record I seek should be quote unquote open to any person. But for whatever reason, it's not handed over. I think we have to ask, what's in this memo that you don't want us to see? You are choosing non-compliance versus offering what I am lawfully entitled. This, along with everything else that's brought or will be brought forth, gives merit for skepticism to this board, the city, and this development. I will close by saying Project Mustang should go on hold until we can figure out how many unlawful actions have occurred. Because it's obvious, it's just not a matter of if or how, it's how many and to what severity. And if I may, I wish to present my documents for the record along with a pocket constitution for Mr. Fury. He can freshen up on the 1st, 4th, and 6th Amendments before his early afternoon tea times on Friday. It doesn't have any GRDA decals on it, but I put it up in a little fancy yellow bow. I think we all know what that means. You, sir? I did that last time I got arrested, so I just want to make sure.
What was the name?
Glenda Cooper.
Linda?
I just have some questions. I'm going to run through them. Y'all can answer them whenever or think about them, however long you want. First of all, as has been stated before, the downsides for the ecology, the habitat, the NFPs, which are forever chemicals, will be emitted from a data center. So the habitat will be affected. The land can never be recouped as far as usable for habitat again and for farming or whatever. The noise level, I found this out, the 55 decibel for a data center is different than one for home appliances. The data center, from all the information that I've received, is a low frequency hum, not the size, not as light as what home appliances are at 55 decibel. Well, it also says that 55 decibel for one generator can travel a half a mile. So then you get several generators going, and like was said before, the noise impact will travel up to 2.5 miles, I believe, and it doesn't stop. So the brain cannot reset. Appliances come a certain time and then they stop. So there we go on that. My questions though are, will we be tied into GRDA if we are selling the energy to them for 25 years or however long it is? Will we be tied into them since we're going to be kind of the broker on that? Or can we go on to, if necessary, or we want to, something like PSO or some other energy company? Do we have to go much further for due diligence of, we don't know who the end user is yet? I don't know if you all already know. If you do, have you taken time to research them? Have you done the background on them, like I did on Blue Owl even? And there was good suggestion that there is a foreign company tied in with Blue Owl. And so, I don't know the end user, so I haven't had a chance to look that up. But I think that might be kind of interesting to find out who that will be.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms.
That was your timer. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Palmer.
Thank you for allowing us to speak. I really appreciate it. So this is my first time to speak, and kind of really concerned. Data centers are popping up everywhere. I've got a website you can go to, opengridworks.com, and they will show you all over the place how they're popping up. And they're all, and I didn't even want to mention this about water. You know, we said, well, they're only going to use so much water. Well, there's places that have data centers that are running out of water. But that's not what I came to talk about, okay? I came to talk about some shocking information that was revealed. And honestly, I just hope it's not true. But I have a question. Well, first of all, I'm going to do 3 paragraphs, then I have a question. A UDC text amendment permanently changed the policy and legitimized what was previously, upon the start of the deal, a prohibited use for data centers. It is improper use of legislative zoning power to facilitate a pre-committed private development without public disclosure of the motivating project. It appears to be against the city charter to move ahead without a public hearing for the public to know, understand, and approve the zoning. My question, how do you justify this zone change that allowed the data center telecommunications into our industrial park as anything but arbitrary for the benefit of a single private developer? And with that, on February 2024, Claremore Industrial Authority was approached regarding a hyperscale data center. On October 22nd, 24, while under NDAs with the developer, Maggie Froben Knight, CEO of CETA, provided the following. I know last we discussed that as the zoning code is currently written, data center uses were not permitted within industrial use. We have received a purchase sale agreements from the project. As a condition, we have to provide a date that we can ensure entitlement conditions can be achieved. What is needed from our team to aid in addressing the current zoning regulations to address this so we can move this forward? To which the city director of planning provided. There's more. There was a couple of ways to do this, and they will all be contingent on the timing that works best for the buyer. That doesn't sound like works best for the city. I would like to say my counsel, Lindsay, also have an email that you wrote. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but she says, I take my position of allowing what can and can't come into our city seriously. Every decision does require a majority to agree. The Open Meeting Act does make it a little bit tricky to get enough council members to agree. We can freely connect to each other except We cannot freely connect to each other except at council to talk about these decisions.
Ma'am, thank you.
And
That
she asked
was,
for prayer.
thank
And I
you.
thank you for your support.
What's the name?
Eric Lemley.
Lemley, L-E-M-L-E-Y, Eric, E-R-I-C.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm not gonna come up here and gripe at y'all and tell you that you're doing wrong or anything like that. My name is Eric Lemley, 14716 East Pine Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're actually in Rogers County. We have a Tulsa address, but we're actually in Rogers County. I'm the business manager for Ironworkers Local 584. I represent roughly 460 members, which about 40 of them live in this county. They live here, they pay their taxes here, they send their kids to school here. We actually, you spoke about Northeast Tech, we actually take kids from Northeast Tech, put them in our apprenticeship program. We've been doing that for years. Something like this to benefit those kids, something like this to benefit the community is important. It's important to us because it puts our workers to work. I do want to differ with you a little bit. You said temporary jobs. I've been on my temporary job for over 35 years, okay? So it's not a temporary job to us. It's a permanent job. It means food on the table, clothes on their back. We buy here, we shop here, our money stays here. So I urge this board to do what we feel is right for the citizens, for the members of our local, that's going to provide jobs for them. We can take a kid straight into the apprenticeship on a project like this. He'll graduate the apprenticeship. It's a 3-year program. He goes in knowing nothing. Comes out as a journeyman. He's got a skill. He's got a trade that he can stay here at his community. He can stay here where his parents live, where his grandparents live. He can get married, raise children here. He doesn't have to go out of state to work. Okay? So, I mean, we're bettering our communities. We're bettering our citizens because we're giving them a livable wage with benefits, with pension, with health insurance. You know, things like that a lot of these jobs don't have. And like I said, this is not, I want to reiterate, not a temporary job. When you join our organization, when you become an iron worker, it's in your blood. This is your career. I've been doing it 35 years, like I said. No one's given me a layoff slip yet. It's not temporary. This is important to us, and it's important to the members of your community. Like I said earlier, which 40 plus are members of your community. They live here. They spend their money here. So just want to say that. From what I see, you guys are doing a good job. Just want to let you know this is something that, in our opinion, your local community needs. So that being said, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chuck Rowland.
My name's Chuck Rowland. I am from Claremore, and I wanted to speak the Constitution tonight. Our Constitution in Oklahoma says that all political power is inherent in the people. It's this side, all political power. And government is instituted for their protection, their security, and their benefit, and to promote their general welfare. So when they wake up in the morning, they are like a guard in front of your home to guard you from corporations coming in, making your property values go down, taking away your rights, taking away your peace, taking away the reason you brought your property where you did. So it seems as if this guard out in front of your house, you've come out one morning and they're gone. Where are they guarding your rights? That's your job. That's your job description every morning when you get up. Also, government is supposed to be amenable at all times. All times. They give us a box of reasons why we can't speak or clap or whatever, but they're amenable to
all power at all times. Miranda versus Arizona says where rights secured in the Constitution are concerned, there can be no rulemaking nor legislation which would abrogate them. Are we getting rulemaking? Are we getting abrogated? The city has no constitutional authority to determine the use of land. It's not in the Constitution. They've come up with laws, they've come up with statutes, they've come up with rules, but in the Constitution, they do not get to presume the use of land. This land will be used for this, this land will be used for that. They can't do that. For the union members, the 460 members that have food on the table, there's going to be some really cheap land available for you guys to move into. If this data center goes in, you guys might want to consider that. Actions indicate intent. No matter what is said up here, actions indicate intent. We're very close to treason for what's happening here because they're supposed to guard you from corporations and they're aiding and abetting the corporations.
Here, here.
We were all born into a contract with that book that had a yellow ribbon on it. We have a contract, they have a contract. When they don't do their end of the contract, they have voided the contract. We have the right to peaceably assemble for our own good.
Sir, thank you. That's your time.
Thank you.
What was the first name?
Brandon.
Hey y'all, I wanted to read a Supreme Court decision about 100 years ago about this exact topic. This is Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty. This is discussing how zoning laws are of modern origin and don't find any weight in the Constitution. The ordinance now under review and all similar laws and regulations must find their justification in some aspect of police power asserted for the public welfare. John Locke would say in section 240 of two treatises of government that public welfare is determined by the people, not by a city council or any arbitrary means. So, the line in which this field separates the legitimate from the illegitimate assumption of power is not capable of precise delimitation. It varies with circumstances and conditions. I'll say that again. It varies with circumstances and conditions. So this is arbitrary. That means that you guys can't have a judicial decision that's arbitrary. In regulatory zoning, a regulatory zoning ordinance, which would be clearly valid as applied to the great cities, might be clearly invalid as applied to rural communities. In solving doubts, the maxim sic utere, I can't speak Latin, but basically don't do harm with your property to somebody else's property, which lies at the foundation of so much of the common law of nuances. I would be curious if the city attorney knows about the common law of nuisances. Ordinary will furnish a fairly helpful clue, as the law of nuisances likewise may be consulted not for a purpose of controlling, but for the helpful aid and analogies of the processes of ascertaining the scope of power, of which they don't have any. So, okay. Tulsa County, about 2 weeks ago, filed a petition for a grand jury with 100 signatures of resident taxpayers, and we are signing a grand jury petition in Rogers County. Come see my dad over there or me afterwards if you guys want to sign on it. There's nothing they can't investigate. There's nothing that any of these city councils, the county commissioners can do to block it. So if you guys want some redress, which you do, for the grievances which we are trying to bring for them and they're blocking through rulemaking and legislation, I would encourage you guys go for it. I mean, I think we're 40 signatures short, so sign a grand jury petition. Let's get it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jim Simmons. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of AXH Air Coolers. AXH Air Coolers is the largest employer in Claremore. We have over 1,000 employees. 850 of those employees live and work in this area. I make decisions every day to support and encourage those 1,000 families. I will tell you, employees of AXH Air Coolers as well as myself, we are strong supporters of the data center. We think it's a great thing for Claremore. All the things that people grumble and complain about in Claremore, the data center is going to help fix it. The city's going to reap revenue from electric sales. The data center is going to put in their own infrastructure. All the things that we grumble about, many of them get resolved by the activation of the data center. It is my intention to be a supplier to the data center. We build air-cooled heat exchangers. As chip technologies have changed throughout the years, the cooling required for a data center is now air-cooled based. Instead of chillers, a lot of people talk about the amount of water that a data center is going to use. This data center is going to use very little water. It's going to use the amount of water of about 3 restaurants. You mentioned Solar Turbines. The facility at the Lufkin building is owned by Solar Turbines. That's a machine shop. They make parts. They make metal parts. They don't make turbines. Solar Turbines is a customer of mine. I know them very, very well. I know exactly what they do. I sell many, many products to Solar Turbines every year. I leave you with this. At AXH and the employees of AXH, we are strong supporters of the data center, and I thank you for all that you do.
Pam Lewis.
Pam. Miss Lewis,
just wait a
Sarah,
second.
can we let the train pass so you get your time? Sorry.
Okay, I think I can talk. I think y'all can hear me. I don't know really one way or the other what I want. I do know most of the people up here, they're good people, and they were elected to their positions by y'all. And even if you were to kick them out or they decide that they don't want to join again next year, when it comes, I guarantee that the people that will take their place, they're going to be in the same positions that these people are. Now, I do believe in my heart, you know, this is the future, whether you like it or not. It's going to happen, whether it be today, next year, or 10 years from now. This is going to happen. And as far as the habitat goes for animals, I love animals, but I also know that this place is zoned industrial. So there's not any animals whether that building gets built or not. But it is the way for the future. And
let her talk.
It is the way of the future, and right, people get up here and talk, and you whisper, and you're so dead set in your mind. You can't, I don't think you can actually hear what some of these people say. And I am the mother of one of the people sitting up here. Well, and you know what? You know what? No, listen. Listen to me. It's a girl, and she has, for the last few months, I couldn't tell you how she has wrestled and talked to her family and all about it. And at the other time when this was a big, back in February, I guess, when y'all talked at RSU, most of the people up here didn't know how they're going to vote, and I don't think they know now either. They're taking all this in and they're listening, so don't think in your minds that it's a done deal, because it's not. And anyway, please don't send these people emails telling them that they're going to burn in hell for if they go along with that. That's not, you know, if you think these people are going to burn in hell for making a decision like that, you need to stop by a Bible on your way home from this joint. But anyway, you know, I'm probably really for it. if for no other reason that it is the future, it is progress, and it is success, and we can't stop it, no matter how much land we have or anything.
Even if it violates the law?
Well, you know what, I've listened to all of y'all about the laws, and, you know, I don't know, but I know that these people know. And I know
Thank
that
you, Ms. Lewis. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
you're not
you very
gonna do
much.
anything that's your time's up.
Alex, follow up.
Right there.
Who was it? Oh. I'm sorry, what was the name again? I didn't just. Okay. Sorry.
My name's Kelly Smallego. I've owned business here in 25 years here in the city of Claremore. Just want to get in front of everybody. Not for it, not against it, but I've asked a lot of questions, and all the questions that I've been answered that I've asked have been answered. And do I like all the answers? No. But the majority of them, I say, they are answered correctly in the way I think, the way I want my children to stay here in the city of Claremore. Let the city do their job. That's all I can say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Isaac Irwin.
I also relate to one of the council people. So I came not to talk to you all or any of y'all, but today is May 4th, my wife's birthday. And she's an amazing person. I just wanted to say that. Also, if you don't like the data center, hey, good for you. If you like it, good for you. AXH, if you need an engineer. That's all I have. Thanks.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Sorry, wait a minute. What was the name again? Okay. Thank you.
Is it AHM or AM?
GILLHAM. Yes, sir. Evening, City Council. I'm slowly becoming more familiar with you. I do hope to keep meeting y'all. I will say I'm not for the data center, but I also do care about you people. I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of you. I've had my questions answered, a lot of them, and like previous gentleman said, whether I liked them, I didn't like them, I got them answered. My big thing is, I'm not from here, I'm from Michigan. You can tell by my accent. I've lived here, praise God, for 6 years. I love it here. We lived in a small little house inside Claremore. Electric bill was $400 a month. That was hard. We had a baby on the way. He came real quick, and like, we immediately were able, praise God, to find a bigger house outside city limits. My electric bill was half that the next month, just moving outside city limits. I do pray that if the data center comes, that the electric bills, the #1 Claremore City complaints on Facebook, the Claremore City, I pray that it can come down and it doesn't go up. But just my fear, the data of the data centers is, it doesn't. My fear, the data with the data centers is whenever they come in, good people like you get voted out. And I don't want that. I like you guys. I've met some of you. I have no ill will. Ask my wife, ask my family. I've prayed for y'all. And we do care about you. We care about the city because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about my 4 kids at home. It's about these kids at home. What's best for them. And being from Michigan, getting out, coming down here, and then seeing the beautiful agricultural community. And I understand this is not agricultural. This is zoned for separate, for something totally different. But to see 270 acres as a farmer-minded person used for something that does not create a tangible good, does not create meaningful impact in the sense of when I go home every night, if I get paid $75,000 from a job and it's a good job, but I don't have something to show for it, for me, it's different. I would much rather see it used for something different other than just data storage, especially with all of the AI push that's going on. But at the end of the day, I just want it to be known whether it's here, whether it's not here. I care about you guys. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to send you nasty emails. I will pray for you. If there's anything I can do, I am an open book. Even just a shoulder to cry on, like whatever I can be. But I know some of you personally, and I care about you. And with that, I would just, when we look at people as just an occupation, we have a tendency to forget this is someone's wife or daughter. I don't ever want to lose the peopleness of Oklahoma. Like, we are people. We are grounded in faith. And I pray that we all remember that.
Thank you.
That was the last one, person signed up.
So if you want to close the public, then we can answer questions from the council.
Yes,
Public hearing.
I did.
Is that a motion? Motion to close the public hearing.
I second. Did I make the motion, or did someone else? Okay. So motion to close public hearing, and second. Do we have any discussion? Call the roll.
Zelman.
Yes.
Irwin.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Calendar.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Ruckerhoff.
Yes.
Bowlby.
Yes.
McSpadden.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing first. My husband was going to be here tonight, and I wish he was, so he would get up there and say something nice about the other woman up here. Say both.
Awesome, by the way.
Yep. It was. That was awesome. My husband probably would have if he had heard the other two. All right.
So, counselors, now's
Questions?
the time. If you have questions that evolve from that, then also we've made a note of questions, specific questions that were asked. And so there are representatives of the project team, obviously, planning staff, as well as Jeff Saban, Center for Economic Development Law, and our own legal counsel here to answer questions that you may have that have come from that conversation, and also for us to go through and answer those questions publicly that were asked.
The only question I had is can you tighten up the amount of square footage you're proposing somewhere, there's a big range, 200,000 to 1.1 million square feet. Do you tighten that up, or do you have any idea of what that first build, how big that first building is going to be?
Councilors, this is Lauren Harvey with Beal Infrastructure.
Hi. Thank you all. So we are right now looking about 400,000 for that first building, potentially up to 850,000 in phase one. That's what we're working on designing today.
And what would cause it to go to 400 or 800? What's the thought there?
We're basically looking at different size buildings based off of where they can fit. The site isn't like a perfect square, so there's a smaller chunk over towards the east side, and then a larger chunk over towards the west side, and a larger chunk over towards the east side. So we're just fitting those buildings where they can appropriately fit within the site itself.
Is space the biggest consideration, or is anything other? Is there anything other going into that decision as to how big that building is?
Space and the amount of power available. So we're limited by the max available amount of power, which we are contractually obligated to with Claremore.
How much is that?
Right now we are looking up to 450 megawatts.
That's all I have.
So Anne asked, she was one of the constituents, she said, will you guys pay for, is it going to go back onto the constituents at all? To pay for the data center?
No, there is nothing in our project that would go back onto the constituents in any way. So for all of the utilities, power infrastructure, water infrastructure, the way that that is all paid for upfront by us, the developer. So I think we've already started that with those work orders, which folks have mentioned. We are paying for all of our own infrastructure and preparing for that. And then as it relates to the TID, it doesn't work like a TIF, so there's no financing that the city has to provide in order to make the project feasible to build.
I do have a question. There was a question posed that there's ONG communication with Oklahoma Natural Gas, and in the result of development of a natural gas combustion engine that would redirect, instead of using electrical, would be natural gas ran. Is that correct?
That is incorrect. I'd be happy to go on the record and say we have no agreements with One Gas or any gas company that would create generation on-site or even off-site for this project.
Counselor, I would follow up. If you'll recall, several years ago, we ran into some issue when housing was expanding on this side of town about not being able to provide natural gas even for houses. Well, for years, even 9 years ago, when I first started with CETA, and then as Maggie from Knight took over, we had issues with just capacity at the industrial park. One of the limiting things for the industrial park to continue to develop was we didn't have enough volumes. And so, if you'll recall, the state legislature, working with ONG, the city of Claremore, actually CETA, Select Oklahoma, and the Department of Commerce, allocated funds for us to increase volume for the entire city. So just on the tail end of that, they brought a new large high capacity line in that came and just stopped just south of Highway 20, a little west of where Casey's is. This is now coming up to feed the additional housing because we suspect the additional residential growth will continue on the north and west side of town, and also bring increased capacity into town along Lowry Road. So I can unequivocally say 100% there is no agreement in place for this project with natural gas, ONG, at all. There is not going to be any on-site generation that has been made publicly stated clear. Redundant power, emergency generation is standard with all these types of facilities. Again, this is all what you all decide moving forward. There is no on-site generation. Specifically when we talked about the amount of megawatts and these text messages, which you have to have a degree to understand firm power. So the reason there is no ratepayer increase or hike, somebody mentioned OG&E or PSO, it's because they need to spend hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for new generation. The power that's needed for this particular project already exists in the portfolio of GRDA, up to 250 megawatts through their combined gas and coal-fired generation facility in Shoto. The additional needed megawatts to power this facility would come under a supplemental supply agreement, which requires Beal Infrastructure to go out into the market, purchase that power from somewhere, wherever that may be, and get that to and through GRDA's transmission system to the GRDA substation that they are paying 100% for. They pay for that entirely, that process and obtaining that additional power and going through. And then if the project goes through, as we set, because we're not a property tax ad valorem recipient, we are the seller of power. So GRDA cannot legally sell power directly to a retail customer outside of Mid-America Industrial Park. That's why we would be the retail. We'll have an electric service agreement if this goes forward with the developer, and that'll be included in a separate instrument if the TID is authorized by ordinance. There are multiple other documents that will go into that.
Okay.
The taxpayers, the ratepayers, will not pay for any part of this. This project, as we move forward years from now, we will present to you all for consideration, and we're working through whether it's binding resolution or this is not something that would be considered ever in a future cost of service study that would affect the rates, causing electric rates to increase. We want to make sure that that's been our number one consideration from the beginning.
The refresh, that isn't gonna be passed on either when you do the refreshes, just making sure.
Yeah, that is not
I know that you've answered, I just wanted to make sure. And then, Sarah Gray asked about, 400 workforce development. Will you guys, I think it was Sarah, it may have been someone else, will you guys make sure, you guys aren't really involved in deciding who, if they're from Texas or anything, that works at the place. So that's the end user, pretty much, right?
The end user, but we are working closely with Northeast Tech. Mike Capella is joining me, who is working on workforce development programs. Feel free to say more, but I'll just say really quick on the construction side. On Project Clydesdale, we are achieving over 75% of construction workforce and dollars spent are with Oklahoma local workers and Oklahoma companies. So
okay.
For the end user aspect, like the jobs directly inside the data center, we're working with Northeast Tech. We have a partnership that's already been established to help them build a data center operations and other IT and cybersecurity training program to be hosted at the Claremore site. They didn't have space to host it originally, so we're working with them to build out renovate classroom space and then build out a curriculum. That program will starting development now. The first data center for our project likely wouldn't be online for 3-ish years if we started construction this year.
I think
2 years, which is enough time to get the program up and running and training and have the first class come through and actually be eligible for hiring into the data center itself for operationals.
Mike, can you address, there's jobs associated that would be direct employee of the end user, but can you address other full-time work associated with, security, HVAC? Is that, those are full-time jobs, they just wouldn't be employed by whoever the end user is?
Correct. So typically the ratio is 2 to 1. So if you have, I think the numbers presented earlier were 50 jobs per phase. If there's 3 phases, if all 3 phases get built, 150 jobs. So you multiply that by 2. That number on top of that would be subcontractors. So permanent 40-hour-a-week subcontracting jobs. So you have operational folks who manage the servers, GPUs, do all the maintenance inside. You also have a slew of other folks who aren't employed by the end user who manage HVAC, electrical, water. If it's a liquid cooled, this is not liquid cooled.
Those are the subcontractors that were mentioned, correct?
Yeah, but they're permanent 40-hour-a-week subcontractors.
And usually local?
Yes, usually they're all hired based in Oklahoma. There's been programs where in the trades where tradesmen will finish the construction and stand up their own independent subcontracting firm to just stay on site permanently, so they don't have to leave and they can stay in their community for as long as they want to. But those numbers probably about 300 or so additional subcontractors on site, working in shifts. So there's 3 shifts.
You had mentioned end user and somebody brought it up, how do we know? So from the beginning, it has been made very clear to both the developer and that whoever the end user is must be a domestically owned and publicly traded company. So while we have not been made aware of the end user yet, I have my own suspicions, but there's only about 7 of them in the US that meet the criteria. Again, this is cloud storage and streaming. This is not an artificial intelligence machine learning data center. That does not mean there's not AI associated with it. I'm sure with technology there's a little bit of it in everything, but it is not an artificial, it's not a machine learning center.
When you refresh that, did that change?
No, the systems are built and designed to be usually specifically to one type of, like the cooling systems are different for a large language model training facility that you see in like Texas. They have a lot of them in West Texas, comparatively to traditional cloud storage. But as John mentioned, there's AI in everything that we do. So if it's traditional cloud storage, when you go on Google and you make a search, there's whether you want it or not, that little AI thing pops up and it does a search and it's usually wrong, but it's in everything, and that's processed through cloud facilities, right? So that's not processed out in Texas, that's processed at the local level. When the refreshes are done, I can't speak for how technology changes in 5 years. I don't know. But as of today, it's not being designed as well.
Okay, I tried to glean questions as people were asking them. So I have just a few to ask. Some of these will be pretty easy. So just to clarify, yes, these data centers will be primarily internet and cloud, correct?
That's how it's designed to be today.
Okay. And there's no plan for solar and wind power to come along?
No, there's no plan.
I know I'd asked that before. I just want to make sure we say it again.
And it's outlined in a few documents to see as well.
Okay. And some of this stuff, I don't know who needs to answer it. One of the questions was about the data center breach, the data breach.
So I'm going to let Adam speak to this. It was a response to an open records request. And I'll let you, there's not propriety, but part of the open records request, there was emails, tons and tons of emails. And I believe there was an attached Excel spreadsheet that was a listing of accounts and account numbers.
Yeah, so as you all might imagine, the firm has helped the city deal with dozens of open records requests. They've requested everything from emails to agreements to anything you can imagine associated with this project. We've assisted the city in responding to those. It's been thousands and thousands of pages and documents. As John alluded to, there were email communications as well as documents that include references to utility account numbers. Well, those are things, there's a specific provision in the Open Records Act that outlines that certain information related to utility accounts must be released. And so that's what we did. There are other things like a person's personal bank account number and social security numbers and those sorts of things that are absolutely confidential. We have been made aware of no instance where anything like that has been released. So to us, there's no instance where there's been a data breach that violates the Open Records Act or any other statute.
Is that how the bank account information was given out, I guess, during that?
Well, the bank account information is this spreadsheet and this table are utility account numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, someone may have viewed this document and misinterpreted it as bank account numbers or something like that.
But it was originally put forth in the prior meetings referenced as a routing number for a bank, not an account number, which is public information. Every bank routing number is
correct.
Public information.
Yes.
And the table you're referring to was utility account numbers, not bank account numbers.
Correct.
Okay.
Just to clear that up.
And Mayor, again, we answered this at the February meeting, you're made aware.
Some of these I know have been
When we
answered.
established the work order process, which is a 100% assurance that taxpayer dollars are not utilized to fund any part of this, that is a transference of dollars needed for development or costs associated with specifically the GRDA substation that they are paying 100% of for. And so all of that's been done at their own risk. Because there's such long lead procurement times regarding some of those things, I mean 2 and 3 years on some of that stuff, at the developer's risk, they started pre-funding so GRDA could get those in the time frame. Now, if it doesn't come to fruition and those aren't needed, that's dollars and assets that they'll have to take with them or that will go back to them. So that was a standalone, separate bank account required. We wanted it to isolate it completely from anything that has to do with the city. It's at a completely different bank. So that money is ACH'd into that after a work order process, an invoice, and then we let GRDA know that that's been completed. They send us an invoice and an executed work order, and then we just transfer the money directly to them.
So that's the Court Mountain Properties?
Quartz Mountain Property.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, got 3 more. They won't take too long. So decibels. Someone had made a comment about that the decibels are different for home appliances than data centers. I thought decibels were decibels, so I guess.
Decibels are decibels. What she's referring to is sound can sound different, but the level of the sound is the level of the sound. You know, for instance, when I'm mixing sound at the church soundboard, 55 decibels is close to where I would mix sound at the soundboard at the rear of a church. But what she is saying is that the sound coming from a data center is going to be different than coming from a mixer or a radio or something. So sound is different. The loudness of the sound is a
decibels.
Measured decibel level.
You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for instance, if you go to the prior data center, that data center operates right around 45 decibels.
And did we change the zoning at all?
So no, there's no zoning request, no zoning change.
I know, I just want to get.
Before this body.
So we'll have Kyle come up and walk through the process.
These were just some of the questions that people asked that I want to make sure answers are given.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To address the question, in essence, what occurred is we have what we call functional groups within the UDC. You can think of it as like a big bucket, and so all the uses, the various uses, will fit into one bucket or another. In this particular instance, the telecommunications functional group did not have a level of specificity that would preclude data centers from being in a number of zoning districts. And so we were already kind of moving through a process to do an amendment in the UDC for various other development standards, bulk and area requirements, and some other things. And so what we did was we tried to create a delineation in the code as to where the actual data center fit, as opposed to having it a little bit more broad brush across the community. To give you a little bit of an example, outside of the special districts, which is where it currently resides, it was allowed by special exception in ag zoning, residential estate, multifamily 2, all of our commercial districts, the office zoning district, light industrial, and by right in the heavy industrial district. So you can see where it would have been very problematic to leave it basically in that way. So we had to basically create basically a.
So it became more restrictive.
Yeah, we tried to be more restrictive.
That way we
didn't want old
it
ag.
definitely wouldn't be where we don't want it
We
to
didn't
be.
want old Atwoods
That's
to
in
become a
essence
data
what we were
center.
trying to
Right.
achieve.
When did
We
that
didn't want the
happen?
old Atwoods or something.
I want to say April or May of last year.
Last
So-
question. Something was referenced, I don't even know what this is. NFPs will be admitted. I don't even know what those
She's
are. but-
referring to forever chemicals that, I mean, if the layperson does a Google search and says, are chemicals emitted from a data center, you're going to get a response that is going to be consistent with that query.
So I would ask Lauren to come up,
Yeah.
because we've had lots and lots of conversations about,
Okay.
I mean, frankly, some of the things that have looked at this property over the years, in my time, and maybe in the last 9 years I've been here, have been much, much more impactful to the environment than this ever
The
will.
galvanizing plant over there, which is perfectly reasonable to put there, it's gonna be much significantly worse.
Yeah, thank you for your question, but as far as we are aware, we are not releasing forever chemicals. We are going through multiple layers of environmental compliance. So there's federal standards, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, U.S. Army Corps permits, NPDES permits, and then at the state level, we'll have to go through the OKR10 construction and stormwater, SWPPP permits. That's like during construction, doing best practices, making sure that when you are building, that nothing is running off into the environment. There's air quality permits for backup systems, and then wastewater discharge compliance. And then at the local level, there is the technical advisory committee review. So that is making sure that our project complies with zoning, but also all of your building standards and codes.
And stuff.
And then all of that must be, there's a number of things that need to be approved along the way. So we have to go through a number of these permits before we start construction, until we can get our certificate of occupancy or our building permit. So we are heavily regulated from top to bottom. But compared to other uses, data centers are an incredibly light use. We are not manufacturing anything on site. It is kind of like the servers in the back of an office, but just on a much, much larger scale.
So the stormwater that will leave the site would be the stormwater that falls and leaves the site now. Of course, detention and all of those things requirement, if we move forward, are required through engineering. And the sanitary sewer system, because of the limited amount of domestic water use for bathrooms, break rooms, there's no pretreatment requirement, and there's no issue of capacity for us if they move forward so that will go where everybody else's household kitchen and bathrooms go to the same place.
I have one last question. Is the current level of the land is the current level of the land. How much of that dirt would be removed or added regarding elevation of the building?
Oh, I think we're still engineering and doing the grading. I think right now we might be at a level site, and I'm probably not using the right engineering term, but it's basically a net where we're not offloading any dirt or potentially not even importing any dirt. It's a pretty flat site, and so I expect the land where it is today to be roughly where the building will sit.
So in my old school infrastructure buildings, the balanced site. So
Balanced
there will
site,
be
thank
the
you.
moving around of a lot of material. Looking at the topography of the property, if it moves forward to flatten it out, there will be some substantial cut, but fill. And of course, always mindful of that west boundary. There is a blue line, and all of those things will remain intact, easements and untouched and regulated through the stormwater pollution prevention plan.
There's no redirection of any waterways.
No.
All that stays where it is.
All that stays where it is. Cat Creek stays where it is. There is that big stormwater detention pond that is over there. That is outside the project, but all of that is protected at the U.S. Army Corps level, so the federal level, and then again when we do our stormwater and SWIP permit, that's the SPPP permit at the state.
I do have one question. Based on the current data center specifications on build, is there any other data center in this area or the United States that match the exact specification of this development for the data center? Like it's air cooled, minimal water usage. Could you maybe give me an example of the current data center and usage that matches those specs?
Yeah, I believe, I don't know to the exact amount of power in a closed loop air-cooled system, but there are a number of data centers that are closed loop air-cooled systems. I believe there's one in Pryor. There's multiple types of multiple types of cooling in Pryor as they've developed that campus over the years and technologies change. You can kind of see how the buildings get a little more efficient and less robust in their outside infrastructure. But yes, there are a number of air-cooled.
So you specifying Google when you say Pryor? Or?
I'm specifying Google, and I'm not saying that is this project, and I'm not saying that is exactly how this is going to be built, but using that as an example. I'm happy to provide you guys with a list of locations where there's other closed-loop air-cooled systems, and we can learn more about that. So.
Thank you.
And the air conditioning that you're going to use when you build in this type of building, you're not. A typical building would be built and you have stick air conditioners on top. They would make noise they make loud noises on top of the building. The type of building you're proposing would have to be a secondary structure enclosing that whole
Yeah,
process.
there are noise mitigation all around this site. So things are enclosed, there's sound attenuation to make sure that we have some closer residential neighbors to make sure that that sound attenuation meets comfortable levels.
So the 55 decibels or whatever level was mentioned earlier, that's before the sound dampeners?
We're setting that right now. I think that'll be at the property line with the sound dampeners, and we are studying ways to make it even more efficient. And that's when something is at full capacity, full usage. This is not 100% of the time.
Sure. Okay.
I think I sent out just a PDF, an article from the Tulsa World today about the Google facility, which is added onto over the years. So there's water cooled and air, all that stuff. And so they're measured, of course, like this one, they're adjacent also to a highway. So there's a lot of road noise and things of that nature. But they're having around 45 decibels there.
And originally we were just told about phase 1 at the last meeting. And so that was 2 to 3 restaurants of water. So is it for each phase, I'm guessing?
That's for phase 1 and phase 2.
So 2 to 3,
Oh,
so
wow.
if there's the third one, okay.
So, and on that, Counselor, I thought this was interesting because, again, we are very sympathetic to everything. These are the concerns that the citizenry have, or the concerns that we addressed with you all when we first started talking about this project. There are concerns. While some people may allude that it's rushed, it's not. We've spent 2+ years vetting these things and making sure that it wasn't going to be detrimental. So, by the grace of God, a new, that old terrible Dollar General was torn down over at Country Club and by Aldi. That is going to be a new tunnel-style car wash. You know, one of these membership type deals and all that. So, I was curious what they use, and they use anywhere from 28 to 48,000 gallons of water a day in their peak. So, this data center right now is slotted to be around 20,000. It's going to do this. I will caveat that, like, God forbid the fire suppression system ever goes on and we have to refill that. That's going to be 300,000 gallons because it's a lot of fire system suppression, but we hope that never becomes an issue. That being said, I'll remind you, our freeboard above what we provide now and what we have the capability to provide is close to 5 million gallons.
One other thing on decibels, just because I'm a sound guy. 80 to 90 decibels is what you hear at your church. This meeting has averaged 78 decibels. And this data center is going to be built to be about 55 decibels. If you go listen to your refrigerator, that's about how loud 55 decibels is. I'm currently speaking at about 79 decibels. You go take your phone, go get a decibel meter. You can take these measurements yourself. 55 decibels is incredibly quiet.
How quiet is it right now out there?
Louder than the current industries out there are creating more noise.
We're not going to get into that.
The public hearing is closed.
Mr. Fury.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone asked if we'd be tied to GRDA with this.
I guess the clarification on the GRDA, so tied to them, that's our power provider
Yeah.
now.
So simple answer, yes.
Yes, it's not feasible to go out and, municipal wholesale customers do not go out and buy power from your investor-owned utilities. They essentially sell their systems and then have a franchise agreement. That's how a PSO or OG&E, because they're regulated by the Corporation Commission, a rate set. For us to go out and buy power from them is probably twice about what we pay per kilowatt hour from a state agency in GRDA. So fiscally, it doesn't make sense to ever go out and spend more money to buy electricity, because in order to meet our operational needs, we would need to increase our utility rate to cover that increase and still cover the cost of what our utilities pay for now.
And I think there was just one other, someone said about how many meetings we've had prior to this. We at the last meeting that we had at Rogers State, we had already voiced at that meeting that the only meeting we had prior to that with regard to meeting with Bill was the day before. And we did do those, and we couldn't have everyone together to not violate the Open Meetings Act. But we did see the same, it was just tweaked a little bit because I think you guys had changed.
Yeah, I think you guys had some questions we wanted to incorporate, and
Not only that, but you guys changed the size or something, like the dimensions on the.
The site plan's updated.
Yeah.
It's changed multiple times.
Yeah.
I will say, Counselor, and thank you for bringing that. One, it is not illegal for small groups to meet as long as no business is conducted or decisions are made or votes are taken. Our charter actually mandates certain committees, such as a finance committee and a few other things that require us to meet in small groups. So it is perfectly acceptable, and Adam, I'm sure but I've been 24 years doing public service. There's no law breaking by saying, hey, the developers in town, would you all like to finally meet them in person and see the presentation they're going to provide tomorrow, which is what we did.
It was identical.
There was no vote taken, there was no action item, there was no, and let me address another direct question. I'm glad that he's finally here. Herb McSpadden and Debbie Long never executed a non-disclosure agreement, neither did anybody else on the council.
Just you?
I executed a non-disclosure agreement upon conference with council. It's not the first, most likely won't be the last. It doesn't obligate us to anything financially, didn't obligate us to anything other than making sure we didn't divulge their proprietary information to competitors.
So you're the one that sold us out.
So, can we go like we did? I really appreciate you all staying this time. The last meeting we had, like half of the audience left before
Yeah, they didn't
we
get to see
even
the
got
answers.
to talk. So that was really nice. So
I think there's a couple more questions that
Okay.
have, that I have notes on, because I want to.
I finished mine.
Yeah, I was making notes of because specifically there were questions asked, and we've already been accused multiple times of not answering questions, so we want to make sure that it was. Who funds, we've done that. Beal funds 100%. And again, the on-site gas, none of that's, GRDA has a very diverse portfolio, and so, let's see, no agreement with ONG. We addressed that there was no data breach, simply compliance with an open records request. February Q&A, 2 meet and greets. By the way, we want to announce publicly there is a second public hearing on February the 18th at 6 p.m. May 18th. May 18th.
It's a long way away.
Yeah, May 18th at 6 p.m. Separate the listings. That's in compliance. Somebody brought up, why is the city limiting capacity, I guess, for the meeting? One, we don't have a litany of places that can facilitate us. RSU is in commencement week. They're not available this week for a large enough spot, and frankly, our other owned facilities are just not up to par from an AV and tech. So this is where we have every public meeting for the most part. We did February 17th so we could incorporate and try to relay as much information known at the time to the public. but this is where our council meetings are every week. We don't have an abundance of resources to go out and spend on the frilly things when we've got hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure to fix. So that's the answer to that question. It is not a good week for RSU to be renting out the Carolyn Taylor Center. And for clarity, the meeting in 2 weeks will also be at this facility. I am going to ask, the only other thing on here, because there's an allusion to it, and I think since we have Jeff Saban, Center of Economic Development Law, and Adam Haven, who is with the firm that represents hundreds of political subdivisions, in your all's opinion, as we've walked through this process, and my insistence, and I know Maggie's, as our conversations have been, to make sure that everything done is done properly and in compliance. Has there been anything that you've found us to not be in compliance with through this process?
Everything in the Local Development Act has been followed, which governs the TIF and TID adoption process.
And in fairness, that's what I should ask you to speak. And I know Adam and Eric Nelson, who handles contract law with RFR, is also been involved. Has there been anything in this process that we have not done improperly? We have vetted everything through legal counsel to make sure it's been done in compliance. Whether you or we like it or not, it's been done in compliance with the law.
Absolutely. Now, every time you've sent an agreement or anything over, as you alluded, Eric Nelson, with 40 plus years of transactional experience in public law, has reviewed those with a fine-tooth comb. ORA, OMA, we've complied with every step of the way when you've asked us questions. There has been no non-compliance that we've found.
Is there any violation of the law of a public official, elected or appointed, signing a non-disclosure agreement?
No, in the terms that you've outlined, where there is no fiscal outlay being made in the agreement, it is, these sorts of economic development agreements are very common. When you have a developer come in that has proprietary confidential information, they won't even have the discussion without that agreement in place. It's a very common agreement. Like John alluded earlier, there have been other similar agreements in this city and lots of other cities.
You can also speak to contracting your way around open records requests.
You really can't, though. I mean,
you can't contract around
no, a non-disclosure agreement is still a public document that once signed, you will get access to with an open records request. It's simply, a non-disclosure means that the person that signs the non-disclosure can disclose proprietary information. The non-disclosure agreement itself is a public document.
And we've released.
I also just want to speak for me as a council member, as far as attacking people that work for the city. I find it very appalling for our citizens to be doing that. There's no reason that John Fury's wife should be brought into any conversation. She's not a part of these decisions. And Maggie works very hard when she's presented things to us. I find her very diligent to try to make sure she's doing what she can. That's her role, is to bring stuff to Claremore. So it's very disturbing when people start attacking us like that. I wish you guys would keep it civil going forward, please, for everyone's sake.
those are all the questions specific questions I made note of. Does the council have anything else for the developer?
No questions?
You have an idea of annual, annual income from electricity?
For the city?
So if the project moves forward, we will turn around and provide, based on load ramp and all of those things, income levels based on the sale of electricity. Again, that's all, we've been working on those things, but they're premature until this body decides whether or not they want to pass an ordinance to establish the tax incentive district. Upon that, we will have multiple other documents. We will have a development agreement that outlines and protects and specifies most of everything we've talked about, plus additional agreements, levels of security, cash deposits, letters of credit, things that will absolutely protect this community from ever being leveraged by any private company. So there will be multiple documents, Counselor. We will be able to say, based on maximum load at this efficiency rate when they're up and going in year 7 or whatever that is, and say this is the estimated annual revenue based on the sale of electricity based on the sale of water, which isn't much. And keep in mind, sales tax in Oklahoma is applied to industrial and commercial users. So they will also pay sales tax, the 4% sales tax on the electricity as well, which means the county will get their 1.5% if it happens. The state gets their 4.5%. There's also use tax on the refresh. So as the end user or the developer, however that works, they end up working through their agreements, spends hundreds of millions of dollars on additional servers, those are subject to use tax and sales tax as well. Our hope is that if this project comes to fruition, we will make a true and impactful change in the dilapidated infrastructure that's been 100 years. It is very difficult, as you know, with how we operate in the state of Oklahoma. We have to look for opportunities to increase the revenue so that we can turn around and be the people that, when I first got here, was, well, we should have had this, we could have had that, but we said no and it went to Owasso, or now it's in Broken Arrow. We can do that again in 20 or 25 years, or we can say, look what we did. It ruffled some feathers, but we did it the right way, and look what we've been able to do. So the next iteration of generations and families don't have to put up with the same potholes and electric lines and all the other issues. Our entire premise since I've been here has been about infrastructure investment and providing a sound foundation for the private sector. Yes, it is unfortunate that some folks do not like it. This is an industrial-owned tract. The private property owner that owns that has just the same rights as any other private property owner. And Oklahoma is very protective of property ownership. And so as long as it meets applicable use under zoning code, that individual or those entities have the right to make application and or utilize that property under the law. And that's what we're dealing with here. Mr. Flieger has every right to sell his property for an acceptable use to be in infrastructure.
I have a motion to close the public.
Second.
It's been
It's
done.
closed.
Oh.
That was
Public hearing was
discussed.
closed. We go to
I appreciate
item number
that.
3.
Reminder, the next meeting on the 18th of May will be another public hearing,
Go on to item
6
3.
p.m.
Okay, item number 3, discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2026-8 as printed. Mr. Clifton.
I hope you had some sort of dilation or something.
I scratched the
I think it's the
lens,
Blues Brothers.
and so the lights bothering. So
On your cornea?
yeah.
Ooh.
So all right. Got some special drops. It's pretty fun.
It's,
I thought it was for the
that
news
happened
cameras.
recently, and it's very painful.
Yes.
If you wanna,
Yes, it
if
is.
folks are stepping out, if we want to wait a moment just for noise purposes, if anybody would like to stay, please do. If not, oh.
Okay. Make it fast.
Lindsay wants to eat cake.
I'm sure that's the part she's looking forward to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know.
I just want
She's
some
having one
food.
for me.
Oh, no, right? What's in your water?
No, we can.
Yeah, we can keep going. We have enough to vote.
Why do you think I have this?
I guess she doesn't care.
No.
You can go ahead, Kyle.
Is that her cup or is that Tina's?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, Mr. Fury. The item before you is a request to rezone a piece of property from RSF5 to MF2. This tract of land is in the South Side Addition, and it is about 1/4 of an acre in size. The intended use of the property is to build a duplex. As you know, in keeping with the way that we've presented these items before, I always like to just note the comprehensive plan and its compliance with the comprehensive plan. This particular tract of land is designated in the neighborhood conservation designation, and as we've noted a number of times, that's a standard or a designation that allows you to either lock in standards that currently exist or to utilize how the neighborhood has evolved over time. And of course, this neighborhood has been through some evolution for quite some time. So there's already kind of a nice mixing of residential uses there.
So is there other duplexes around that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, there are.
Motion to approve.
Oh, good. Woohoo!
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Call the question.
Kerwin?
She's tired.
Eastad?
Yes.
Feldman? Michael? Where is he? Callender?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Breckerhoff?
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 4, pretty similar. Discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2026-9. Mr. Clifton.
Thank you, Madam Madam Mayor. Again, this is another rezone request. The initial rezoning for this property occurred in 2021. The developer is now ready to move forward with the development of the property. And as he was kind of putting together and assembling the development, realized that needed to make a couple of modifications. So it is coming before you as a PUD. So it was RSF 10 and multifamily 2, and now he is proposing RSF 10 multifamily 2 with a supplemental PUD. Just to really quickly highlight the modifications, they are all directly related to overall lot size. Minimal adjustment, but it is a reduction in the lot size, and it's to kind of create kind of a cohesive transition from what is considered multifamily into what is considered single family. So there's a modification there. There's a modification in the lot width and depth. Multifamily requires a 100 by 100. RSF 10 is a little bit different, and so in order to keep that consistent 60 by 100 footprint all the way through the development, we needed the PUD. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved and second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Irwin?
Yes.
Breckenhoff?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Bowlby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
Second.
Motion adjourned is second. Call the roll.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Callender?
Yes.
Irwin?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Breckenhoff?
Yes.
Bowlby?
Yes.
McSpadden?
Yes.
If, and I don't think there's a need for it, I appreciate the civility